Hey everybody. So, my guest today is Thomas Evans. He is the founder of Email Octopus, which is awesome email software to help you get your message out to your customers. In this episode, we're talking about how Email Octopus is competing in a highly competitive market and how they managed to scale to $1.4 million ARR. So, Thomas, are you ready to take us to the top?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So first off, I'm a user myself of Email Octopus for a couple of years now. But for anyone that isn't familiar with it, can you tell us a bit more about it and how it's helping your customers?
Yeah, so we are an email marketing platform. Our focus is on cost, so making it affordable for people to use, as well as making it as simple and as easy to use as possible. So we're very, very similar to the others in the industry, the likes of MailChimp and MailerLite. But yeah, we're very much focused on simplicity and affordability.
So, what's the exact business model of Email Octopus? How are you making money?
Sure, we're a SaaS business. We charge on a monthly basis, and that payment and people's plan size depends on the amount of contacts they have. So that scales as a customer gets bigger and they want to contact more people, they end up paying us more money.
On a more personal note here, let's talk about the founding story. How did you start the business?
Sure. So we launched it about six years ago. I think the idea came up at the time. I was at a travel agency, a startup travel agency here in London, and Jonathan and Gareth, the co-founders, were also at their respective businesses. Gareth was running a marketing agency, and Jonathan was a head of tech for a um, kind of, I think, at CoinDesk, a Bitcoin blog website. So came together and we wanted to send some emails out for, well, Jonathan wanted to send some emails out for one of his side projects that he was working on at the time. And it was incredibly expensive to use MailChimp. And he began looking at alternatives to do so. And in doing so, he came across something called Amazon SES, which is the Amazon AWS product to send emails out in bulk. Used that, built a wrapper on top of it to send out his own emails, and then kind of thought, actually, this is quite a good solution. Why don't we turn this into a product? And that's where it started. And now, 6 years on, we've actually got a fully fledged business with a few of us working on it. So yeah,
So, basically, build a better version of existing solutions.
yeah, I guess so. The primary reason was cost initially. So MailChimp was prohibitively expensive at the time. The side project wasn't making any money, but it had a big audience. So MailChimp, I think, was going to cost a few £100 a month. And then there were no solutions out at the time that made it simple to use this particular Amazon SES product. So yeah, kind of a mix of both of those things.
Yeah, I actually was a MailChimp user before, but it was getting out of hand. So I'm really happy with Email Octopus as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what we hear a lot of the time. As their list grows, the the prices get quite extortionate. And if you're not an e-commerce store or something where you can directly attribute revenue to your emails, then yeah, you begin to look for cheaper solutions.
Are you guys bootstrapped or have you taken any VC or funding?
Yeah, we're completely bootstrapped, and we have been since day one. So we've been kind of profitable since day one too. So when we first started out, it was a side project, so evenings and weekends only, really. And then as it began to get a little bit of traction and make some money, we both Jonathan and I began contracting alongside our kind of email octopus work. So we did 3 days a week on kind of a contract basis for other startups, and 2 days a week on email octopus. And then as it became even more profitable and we could afford to pay us, we went full time on it. So it took about a year and a half to get to that stage.
That's awesome. Well, talking about day one, how did you get your first users to the product?
Yeah, so day one, we did a launch on Reddit. At the time, to kind of get it out there, we pitched it as a totally free way to send emails to your customers. And we launched on the Reddit marketing subreddit, and then within a couple of hours, we had a few hundred signups. So that was kind of the initial bunch of kind of users that came on board, and then within kind of 6 months we had to look to monetize those.
Sounds like a quick validation. That's great. So what is your most important acquisition channel to get new customers on board right now?
Right now it's mainly kind of brand and search, kind of, and by search I mean organic search. So we've been around in the space now for a couple of years, well, 5 years, 5, 6 years, and we've really taken our time to come up with a brandable name, as well as invest time in creating our cute little mascot and spending time on our website design, etc. So we're hoping that's now paying off, and from our point of view, we don't actually spend a huge amount on paid advertising, and most of it is coming through on brand search terms through SEO.
That's awesome. What is your most valuable lesson up to this point as a founder?
Yeah, so we learned this quite early on, but it's something that kind of always sticks around with us as we've grown, which is that not all customers are good customers. Within a year of starting Email Octopus, we began to experience issues with customers coming on board who kind of slightly nefarious, not great emails they were sending. Probably you'd call it spam. And that in the early days, that's quite a tough thing, right? To essentially turn down revenue that's coming in, particularly as that kind of revenue is what's going to make you be able to go full time on the project and allow the project to grow quicker. So within about a year, we had that issue, or we spotted that issue. So we ended up booting off a load of people back then, and that still is the case now. It's very much, we have to focus on our reputation as individuals as well as the brand, and ensuring that our customers that use us are going to promote us in the right light, as well as make my life easier and our customer support life easier, and not cause too much of a nightmare there. So that's very much the lesson that sticks with us to the day.
Makes sense. So let's talk numbers for a bit. At what stage is Email Octopus right now in terms of revenue, and how much time did it take to get to this point?
Yeah, so we're, I guess if we look at US dollars, we're about 1.4 million ARR, something like that. And that has taken us, I think we began charging just over 5 years ago now. And from that date, it's kind of been a longish process, and there's not been any magic silver bullet where suddenly it's been like, ta-da, this is amazing, everything's gonna be perfect. It's just been a case of slowly growing per month, acquiring more people than we're letting go, as well as some pricing increases along the lines, and a number of feature improvements which have kind of justified those price improvements.
Wow, those are great numbers. Awesome job. How big is the team that is working on a product right now?
Yeah, so we are a smallish team. We're still pretty small, so we are a team of 8. So we've got, by far our biggest team is the customer support team. That's 4 people. So we pretty much offer 24/7 support now, and that's something that we've really, really focused on doing. I constantly am saying to them, kind of, how do we become best in class in support? So that team has grown bigger than all the other teams. We've got 1 marketer, and Jonathan and I. So Jonathan is CEO and still does a little bit of development, and then we've got 1 full-time developer as well. So yeah, team of 8.
That's even more awesome, getting those numbers with such a relatively small team. Love it. Well, great, Thomas. Thanks for sharing the story behind Email Octopus. Now, let's wrap it up with a lightning round of 6 questions to inspire others. Before we dive into today's lightning round, let me ask you something. Are you frustrated by what a hassle it is to track your visited data with Google Analytics? Luckily, there is a better way to analyze your website and get actionable insights. Oribi. Oribi is a unique marketing analytics tool that captures every single event visitors perform on your website, all without using code. You heard that right. You don't have to set up any code at all to start tracking your conversions. Oribi lets you analyze visitor behavior patterns, build smarter funnels, and get tons of insights so you always know what your next step is. Go to oribi.io/SaaS Pirates. That's ORIBI.io SaaS Pirates and get 20% off any plan after your free trial. Now, let's go back to the interview. If you would start a SaaS today, what would be the first action to take?
Yeah, so I think the most important action you can take is understanding the market and the potential customers you'll be serving as well as possible. So I would personally go to Capterra or one of the other review platforms and look at others in the industry. I know when we've done this with our competitors, you very, very quickly see recurring themes of what people are not finding good about existing solutions. In our space, it's complexity and price are the two things that really, really have jumped out for us on Capterra. So understanding the market, and particularly when you're young and you're small, that you don't perhaps have the audience to reach out to people individually, but there's a plethora of information already out there in the form of reviews on places like Capterra and G2 and places like that.
Awesome. What is some of your favorite software that you can't live without in running daily operations of Email Octopus?
Google Sheets is something that we use pretty much every hour or so of the day. So Google Sheets, we has a really advanced kind of app engine and things like that. So we're pulling data, for example, from the Stripe API from our own database, and then we can then automate reports in Google Sheets, which then using Zapier we push into places like Slack or wherever it needs to go. So Google Sheets is our number one, and then I also enjoy using Help Scout for our customer support. I think that really makes customer support and helping our users really, really, really simple.
And what about your phone? What's your favorite app on your phone?
Probably Twitter. Yeah, so I love keeping up tabs on what's going on in the SaaS world, and particularly the email marketing world. There's a lot going on now with all these open startups, ConvertKit and people like that are doing some really cool stuff and sharing it. And for us to find more out about the industry and what our competitors are doing and what our customers want, I spend far too much time on Twitter right now.
Me too. What's your favorite book that you would recommend to people that are starting in SaaS?
Yeah, so I came originally from a VC funded startup. The travel agency was a VC funded startup. So for me, the number one thing, particularly going into the Bootstrapped world, was reading the kind of the series of books by Basecamp. So I think they've done a number now, but I remember Rework, which I'm sure pretty much everyone that's listening to this has probably read anyway. But Rework gave me a real good kind of insight into what's possible when you want to build a successful software business, and I still refer to that to the day.
Yeah, Rework is one of the best indeed. What SaaS brand do you admire the most?
Yeah, so we have spent a lot of time looking at this in the past kind of couple of months. What SaaS brands we admire as a company and both as individuals as well, because we did our rebrand back in November, and I personally completely love Squarespace and what they've done there. We're in a similar kind of space where we're kind of not quite targeting consumers. I think the people that use Email Octopus are slightly more than consumers, but they're also at the same time, they're not corporate Salesforce kind of businesses. And the kind of stuff that you see coming out from Squarespace, as well as Shopify, and to another extent MailChimp as well, the marketing they do and the branding is really, really fun and makes marketing a B2B brand a lot more exciting. So I always look at particularly Squarespace.
And what is your favorite SaaS person to follow or read?
I follow so many, and the indie hackers community as well. I can't perhaps name names particularly from there, but I always enjoy reading Peter Level's his tweets. I know he's not perhaps SaaS, he's on the verge of it with his job board and things like that, but I find him so enjoyable to read. He has a really good mix of sharing kind of things he's doing personally, as well as things he's doing as a business. And I think it's super, super cool that as a single founder that's working alone on it, he's doing as well as he is. And it also allows him to perhaps be a bit more open about what his real thoughts are. I think, as you become more of a brand and a larger company, you perhaps have to censor yourself a little bit. Where Peter Levels, his Twitter feed's pretty uncensored, and I love it for it.
Great. Well, Thomas, thanks for your time today and sharing your story with us. To conclude this interview, where can we learn more about you and Email Octopus?
Yeah, sure. So the Email Octopus website, emailoctopus.com, is a great place to begin looking at, particularly for our product. And then I also write a little bit on my own personal website, and kind of what's going on and things like that. That probably the best place to find that, rather than me give out a long URL, is if you follow me on Twitter, which is at TD_Evans. My website is in the address there, and then I share some of my thoughts on SaaS on that website.